1964. Rome, Italy. A phone rings. In Los Angeles, in a small apartment. The man who answers is 34 years old. Tall, handsome, but unsuccessful. For 7 years, he's been playing a cowboy on television. The show Rawhide. Good money, but a dead-end career. Hollywood doesn't want him. Too tall, they say. His face isn't interesting, they say. Television actor, they say. This last one is the worst. Moving from television to film is nearly impossible. Eastwood had a contract with Universal, but the studio wasn't using him. Small roles, background work, nothing. Once a director told him, "You know what your problem is? Your Adam's apple is too big, and you talk too slow." Eastwood had swallowed these criticisms. What could he do? Rawhide started in 1959. Eastwood played Rowdy Yates, a young, inexperienced cowboy. He was second billing. The lead was Eric Fleming. The show was successful, but Eastwood wasn't satisfied. Every season the same thing. Ride horse, chase bad guys right into sunset. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Eastwood would suggest ideas to directors. What if we shot this scene differently? What if my character reacted this way? The answer was always the same. You're just an actor. Do what you're told. By 1964, Eastwood was 34 years old. 7 years on the same show. Zero film career. Uncertain future. The man is hopeless. And the phone rings. The caller is an Italian producer. The offer is strange. A Western will be shot in Rome. Low budget, unknown director, script adapted from a Japanese film. The money offered, $15,000. In Hollywood, you couldn't even shoot a commercial with that money. But the man accepts. He has no other choice. He boards a plane, goes to Rome, and his life changes forever. That man is Clint Eastwood. That director is Sergio Leone. And that film is A Fistful of Dollars. This story tells of one of cinema's most unexpected partnerships, a failed American television actor and a crazy director who wants to make Westerns in Italy. Together, they would change film history, and Clint Eastwood wouldn't exist without Sergio Leone. I need to tell this story. Who was Sergio Leone? Born in Rome in 1929. His father was a silent film director. His mother was an actress. Cinema was in Leone's blood. His childhood was spent in Mussolini's Italy, World War II, destruction, hunger, chaos. But the cinemas were open, and young Sergio went to the movies every chance he got, especially American films. Westerns, John Ford, Howard Hawks, John Wayne. Leone worshipped these films, but something bothered him. American Westerns were too clean. Heroes were too good, villains too evil. Everything was black and white. Real life wasn't like that. Leone imagined a different Western, dirtier, more realistic, where heroes had dark sides, where villains had human sides. But could you make Westerns in Italy? It was an absurd idea. In the early 1960s, Leone worked as an assistant director on American productions shot in Italy. On massive productions like Ben-Hur, he wanted to direct, but nobody would give him a chance. Finally, in 1961, he made his first film, The Colossus of Rhodes, a low-budget adventure film. It failed. Leone was disappointed, but he didn't give up. One day he watched a film from Japan, Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, a samurai playing two rival gangs against each other, a clever, ruthless, mysterious hero. Lightning struck in Leone's mind. I can make this story as a Western, and A Fistful of Dollars was born. Now he needed an actor who looked mysterious, silent, dangerous. Leone wanted Henry Fonda. Fonda was the star of American Westerns. But Fonda laughed it off. A Western in Italy? Like a joke. Leone wanted Charles Bronson. Bronson also refused. Leone wanted James Coburn. Coburn was interested but wanted too much money. There was no budget. Big names were impossible. And someone whispered a name to Leone. Clint Eastwood. Who? He plays a cowboy on television. On the Rawhide show. He'll be cheap. Leone looked at Eastwood's photo. Tall, thin face, sharp gaze. He looks lazy, Leone said, but maybe he'll work. And he called. What did Eastwood think when he got that call? He explained years later, "A Western in Italy? It sounded crazy, but my career was already dead. What did I have to lose?" Eastwood flew to Rome, met Leone, and on the first day a problem emerged: language. Leone didn't speak English. Eastwood didn't speak Italian. How would they work? They hired a translator, but the translator couldn't convey everything, especially Leone's vision, his emotional nuances, and maybe this language barrier became the film's magic formula. Leone couldn't give Eastwood long explanations. He could only give simple instructions. Don't talk. Just look. Less. 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 Eastwood was surprised at first. In American films, actors talked. They expressed their emotions. They explained things. Leone wanted the opposite: silence, looks, minimum movement. Eastwood adapted, and he discovered something. Silence was powerful. Not talking was more effective than talking. A look told more than 1,000 words. This was the birth of the style that would define Eastwood's entire career. The man with no name. The character Leone created. No real name, no past, no explanation, just a poncho, a cigar, a gun, and that look. The character didn't talk because he had nothing to say, or refused to say it. The audience never knew. This mystery was fascinating. Filming took place in Spain, the Almeria Desert, hot, dusty, merciless. It looked like the real Wild West. Leone had discovered Almeria. It was cheap, empty, and the landscape was indistinguishable from Arizona. Spanish villagers worked as extras. Mexican characters were played by Italians. Most of the English speakers didn't know English. Lip movements would be matched with dubbing later. This was a chaotic production. But Leone found order in chaos. The budget was minimal. Everyone did multiple jobs. Eastwood brought his own costume from Los Angeles. That iconic poncho was his idea. The poncho has an interesting story. Eastwood bought it from a Spanish market. It looked dirty, worn, characterless, perfect. And that cigar. Leone wanted Eastwood to constantly smoke cigars. "The smoke makes your face mysterious," he said. Eastwood didn't like cigars, but Leone insisted. Eventually, Eastwood got used to it. That cigar became the man with no name's signature. Leone was like a dictator on set. He controlled every frame. Camera angles, lighting, music. Everything was planned in Leone's head, but he gave freedom to actors, especially to Eastwood. "You know what to do," he'd say. "I'll just watch." This trust transformed Eastwood. For 7 years on television, he'd said, "Yes, sir, no, sir." Directors told him what to do. He hadn't voiced his own ideas. Leone was different. Leone listened to his ideas. Leone trusted him, and Eastwood began to grow. When the film was finished, Leone went into editing, and he added something else: music. Ennio Morricone, Leone's childhood friend, a genius composer. Leone and Morricone had attended the same elementary school, same class. They were childhood friends, and as adults, they became cinema history's greatest director-composer duo. Morricone's music was like nothing else: whistles, bells, electric guitars, choir. Western music wasn't supposed to be like this. Traditional Western music was orchestral: violin, piano, classic American sounds. Morricone destroyed these. The theme he wrote for A Fistful of Dollars, that whistle, that whip crack, that electric guitar, was something never heard before. People left the cinema humming the melody. For The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the ecstasy of gold. This was a masterpiece. Choir, orchestra, emotional explosion. When this music played during the final scene, audiences cried. Morricone composed music for over 500 films, but the Leone films always stayed at the top. And with Eastwood's face, Leone's cameras, and Morricone's music, a masterpiece emerged. A Fistful of Dollars was released in Italy in 1964. Explosion. Italians went crazy. Lines spilled from theaters onto streets. The film stayed in theaters for weeks. Critics were baffled. What is this? An American Western? An Italian film? It was neither. It was a new genre. Spaghetti Western. The name was mocking, but it stuck. And Eastwood became a star overnight. In Italy. America hadn't heard about it. The film wasn't shown there. There were copyright issues. Kurosawa had sued, rightfully so, but Leone didn't stop. Second film, For a Few Dollars More, 1965. Eastwood returned, this time with Lee Van Cleef, another failed Hollywood actor. Together they were dynamite. The film was even more successful. Budget grew, Leone's vision expanded, and then came the third film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966. This film was a masterpiece. 3 hours, the American Civil War, three men searching for buried treasure, each using the other, each betraying the other. Eastwood was the good, but how good? The man killed people, worked for money. Good was only relative to the others. Lee Van Cleef was the bad, sadistic, ruthless, killing for pleasure. But Van Cleef gave him charm. The bad guy was attractive. Eli Wallach was the ugly, the Tuco character, loud, funny, pathetic, but a survivor. Wallach stole this role. In a 3-hour film, he was most remembered. Leone kept these three characters in balance. None was fully hero, none was fully villain. All three were in the gray area. This was a radical departure from American westerns. In John Wayne films, villains wore black hats. Heroes wore white hats. It was easy. Leone didn't do easy. Filming was hard. They worked 12 to 14 hours a day in Spain's heat. Water was scarce. Food was bad. Everyone was exhausted. But Leone's energy never ran out. He was a perfectionist. He could shoot a scene 30 to 40 times until he got what he wanted. The final scene is one of cinema history's most iconic. Three men in a cemetery, guns pointed at each other. Who will fire first? Minutes of tension, and Morricone's music, The Ecstasy of Gold, a composition that brought tears. This film was Leone's peak, and Eastwood's introduction to the world. The film was released in America in 1967. Copyright issues had been resolved. America was shocked. Who is this guy? They asked. What is this Western? Eastwood became a Hollywood star overnight. Television actor? Not anymore. Now a cinema legend. And he owed it all to Sergio Leone. But their relationship was complicated. Leone saw Eastwood not as an actor, but as a type, a face, a silhouette, not a speaking human. This bothered Eastwood. Leone used me like a puppet, he said years later. We made great films, but I was just a tool for him. Leone also spoke harshly about Eastwood. Eastwood has two expressions, with hat and without hat, he'd said. This was a mocking comment, implying Eastwood's acting range was limited. This comment deeply wounded Eastwood. Even years later, when he remembered these words, there was pain in his voice. But the truth was, they completed each other. Leone was the vision man. Eastwood was the face man. Leone told the story. Eastwood carried it. Without one, the other wouldn't exist. After 3 films, they parted ways. Leone wanted Eastwood for his 4th film, Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968. This would be Leone's biggest project, longest film, biggest budget, most complex story, and Leone wanted Eastwood as the villain. Roles would reverse. The man with no name would no longer be hero but killer. Eastwood refused. Why? Several reasons. First, money. Leone couldn't pay more. Eastwood was now a star. He wanted star money. Second, control. Eastwood now wanted to make his own films, to direct, to escape Leone's shadow. Third, ego. Leone's 2 expressions comments still hurt. Eastwood wanted to prove he could succeed without Leone. And perhaps most importantly, Eastwood was tired. For 3 films, he'd worked in Italy, in Spain, away from his family. He wanted to go home. Leone replaced Eastwood with Charles Bronson. The film was a masterpiece, but something was missing without Eastwood. Henry Fonda played the villain, the same Fonda who had rejected Leone for years. The irony was bitter, and Leone never forgave. The 2 men didn't speak for years. They criticized each other in interviews. Both were proud. Neither would apologize. But deep down, there was respect. Eastwood continued using Leone's techniques. Silence, looks, minimal dialogue. These were Leone's lessons. And when Eastwood became a director, Leone's shadow was visible in every film. 1989. Sergio Leone died. Heart attack. 60 years old. Leone had spent his final years on Once Upon a Time in America. The film, released in 1984, was his magnum opus, a gangster epic, 4-hour version. Studios cut it, ruined it, but the original version was a masterpiece. And Leone was planning new projects. A war film about Stalingrad, massive, epic, Leone style. But his heart couldn't take it. When the news spread, the film world mourned. Scorsese, Tarantino, Spielberg, all spoke of their debt to Leone. What Eastwood felt when he heard the news, we don't know. He never explained. No press release, no interview, just silence. This silence was Eastwood's style. But maybe storms were raging inside. The man he hadn't spoken to for 20 years. The man he owed his career to. And now he was dead. Maybe Eastwood had regrets. He couldn't make peace. He couldn't say thank you. Or maybe he didn't. Who can know Eastwood? But 3 years later, in 1992, Unforgiven was released. The film begins and white text appears on screen. Dedicated to Sergio and Don, Sergio Leone, Don Siegel, Eastwood's two masters. This dedication said what Eastwood could never say. Thank you. Without Leone, there would be no Eastwood. Eastwood knew this too. And with Unforgiven, he paid the debt. The film was the antithesis of Leone's westerns. A western where violence wasn't glorified, where the hero truly suffered, where nothing was easy. Leone created the western myth. Eastwood destroyed it. But to destroy, you first have to build. And Leone was the builder. Today, spaghetti western is a classic genre. Tarantino worships Leone. Kill Bill, Django Unchained, all Leone's children. But the real legacy lives in Eastwood. That silent look, that minimal dialogue, that mysterious hero, all Leone's invention, all Eastwood's legacy. In 1964, a phone rang. A failed actor accepted a crazy offer. And film history changed. Sergio Leone created Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood carried Leone's vision to the world. This was a partnership, sometimes difficult, sometimes painful, but always powerful. 2 men, 3 films, infinite impact. And it all started with $15,000. Sometimes the smallest investments yield the biggest returns. Sometimes the most hopeless moments become the brightest beginnings. And sometimes a phone call from Rome changes everything. Sergio Leone died in 1989. Clint Eastwood is still alive in 2024. But in every Eastwood film, in every silent look, in every minimal dialogue, Leone lives. Because masters die, but what they teach lives on forever.